welcome back to the channel. We got a new car in the garage. This is a 64 VW Notchback. This is a push button S model. The S model means that it's got the trim and stuff like that. Push button, for those of you that don't know, means that most of the switches for like the lights and windshield wipers and stuff like that are actually push button on the left hand side of a cluster. Also means that it's a cluster, you know what, because most of those buttons are a pain in the butt either to replace, and they are finicky. But it means it's basically a rare model. These are also, since it's a 64 push button, they're also known as a black label car, meaning it's an early import into the US. So it wasn't a true mainstream when VW was bringing in a lot of these vehicles, but it's actually a cool car to have on the show. Patina, you know me, I'm a Patina guy. Some of you guys might be like, oh dude, that's a rust bucket. I have a picture right here, but this is actually, when I seen this car, I'm like, oh, I kind of know what these people are going after. It's kind of like my 59 VW Bug, if you see right here. We've used it on some of my thumbnails and stuff. So I'm pretty sure this person was actually going after that same look. They left a little bit of the paint around the jambs, and I think that really needs to be taken off to complete the look. And that's what I intend on doing. And I think that'll actually finish it also too, like we do on most of the cars. Lower it. I think it's a little high in the rear, and maybe the front could come down a little bit more. I don't want to level it out. Maybe I still want to keep a rake, but I do want to bring the rear down more. One more thing. I think we'll finish it off with some 17-inch Porsche alloys. And then the rear, like we've done on the Bug, we'll do Fresh Custom adjustable spring plates. Basically, it's a bolt-on plate. You know, on the Bug that we did the rag top and the oval window conversion, these are the same rear spring plates that I used on those, on that Bug. These are a really nice spring plate. So we'll use those on this car. With no paint on it, you know, there's no Bondo or filler to hide any imperfections. So more or less, it's a dead straight car with little to no rot. You have some pinholing going on, but I mean, for 64, it's actually pretty solid. Quarter panel solid, doors solid and straight. Some of the panel gapping, like this trunk lid, needs to be adjusted, but overall, it's like really solid for its age. Black and yellow plates, OG frames. Again, it's a really nice, solid, complete car. So I think it's gonna actually make a really good base for something that we can clean up. It's not gonna be a full restoration. Like I said, I kind of want to finish off what they were doing, take the remaining paint off, put the bottom rocker trim on, give it a nice stance, clean up the interior a little bit, throw the 17s on it. It idles a little funny. It's got dual carbs on it. Sync those up, put a nice exhaust on it. That'll be it. So if you want to see more of this, stay tuned, because right after this, we'll start digging into it. All right, so it's time to get started on the Notchback. I did a few things off camera. I did a disc brake kit front and back on it, so that's why I have the different set of wheels. The disc brake kit has a 5x112 and a 5x130 bolt pattern, so I've got some cookie cutters on it temporarily. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the 17-inch funch. I have them right there. I'm either going to run those or these. We'll see basically once we get it lowered. So let's get ready to put the drop plates on the rear. Let's first get started by jacking up the rear. I got a block on the front driver's side tire. Anytime you're jacking up the rear, Since you don't have an e-brake or anything to stop it from rolling in the front, make sure you block the front of the car to make sure it doesn't roll back. So let's jack up the rear, take off these rear wheels, and start disassembling the rear suspension. I'll show you how to get these rear plates put on. The main thing I really like about these rear plates is you don't have to pull off the rear factory plate and then mess around with re-indexing anything. Basically this slides on over it. You're going to cut basically the ear off that goes onto the swing axle, and then just drill a pattern that this will bolt onto, so you don't have to mess around with indexing anything, pulling off your old plate, worrying about preload or anything like that. So it makes it really easy. And your adjustment, you can basically go anywhere from 1 inch to 6 inch drop, and if you want to actually go back and adjust that, you have the ability to adjust it. So that's why I really like these plates. So let's jack this up and get started. Also, before we get started, let me take a pre-measurement. This way we can see a before and after. I know we have adjustability, but I want to see, let you see what we're starting with. As you can see, stock height, this is 100% stock height. These tires are bowed out. I hate the cambered out look. I do like the squatted in look. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's my preference. So let's get a before and after height measurement. So at stock height, center wheel, we're sitting at 25 inches, pretty much dead on. So let's see how much we can lower this thing. I'm gonna put a couple jack stands underneath the frame horns. And you can always leave your jack underneath there as a third line of support. So let's pull the wheels off. I'll just start with one side, and then we can take the other side off once we get into it. Then you can also toss your wheel under there as another safety net. All right, with the wheel off and everything accessible right now, what you want to do is see if any of your brake cables are in the way, brake lines, emergency brake lines are in the way, and get those out of the way. What I noticed is my brake line is sitting here right up against this spring plate. So there's a clip. I'm going to get this out of the way. So that gives me a little bit of play in it. I'm going to probably wedge something behind this so that when I'm cutting this spring plate, I don't go into this brake line. But yeah, I can actually push this back. It gives me about a ½ inch, but I still got to be careful with it. The other thing is this emergency brake line, I got to be careful with. Next thing I want to do is fit the actually spring plate up against the Fresh Kustoms spring plate up against the factory spring plate and see where I'm going to be cutting. So you'll sit it up against the actual torsion bar because it centers in the torsion bar, and you can make an initial ballpark mark on your factory spring plate where you're going to cut. So I'm going to cut it long, and then we could come back and trim it shorter after the fact. So that's my mark where I'm going to cut. And again, when you're cutting, make sure you don't go through your emergency brake line or anything behind here. I'm going to bolt these 3 bolts because there is a bracket here, and I'm going to see if it comes off with that. All right, so this one bracket I was worried about right here. I'll show you right here. It's attached to the brake line. I don't know if you can see it. Let me pull it up right here. Right there. I'm going to actually zip tie it to this shock, so when I cut through here, it's not cut through. All right, so we have our mark on the spring plate. We could cut that, and then this is the excess that we don't need. All right, so that's the quick and dirty way of doing it. Nicest way of doing it would be basically taking everything apart, but this alleviates a lot of time. Let that cool down and we can pull that off. But this way you don't have to take apart the e-brake cable, because basically e-brake cable on all these, the Type 1, Type 3, it's already going to be stretched. There's no way you could swing this out any further without disconnecting the e-brake cable. So the best way to do it is basically cutting it in the car. So I'll let that cool down and we can actually get that out. We'll unbolt this, fit the Fresh Kustoms spring plate on it, mark it a final time, and make our final cut. I'm going to lift up this axle a little bit to give me some space because this is hitting. All right, I lifted this up just a little bit so that I can get the Fresh Kustoms plate fitted. So what you want to do is you want to slip it over the torsion bar and center it on the torsion bar. And then you want to slide it up so that it sits flush with the bottom of the factory spring plate. At that point, you can actually mark your final cut, because anything beyond the Fresh Kustoms plate we no longer need, so all this is gone. So we could cut all of this off. And honestly, we can mark our holes. If you want to. Or you can use this as a template. To drill your holes. Basically, all of that's going to get cut off. So let's make our final cut. And then again, how this works is, once these are bolted on, you can adjust this up or down. And then your swing axle is going to bolt into here. So basically I'm clamping this on so I can use this as a template to drill my holes. Again, lining it up at the bottom and centering it basically right here. This to me is basically the hardest part because this factory plate is kind of tempered, so drilling through it's not always the easiest thing. And instead of going through a bunch of batteries, I choose going old school and using a plug-in drill. All right, once you have all your holes drilled, it's time to basically mount the adjustable spring plate permanently. One thing is, when drilling the larger holes, the pilot holes is not really an issue. The factory spring plate is hardened steel, so small holes isn't an issue, but once you start getting into like 5/16, 3/8, ½ inch, it's gonna really fight you. So what I used is Milwaukee's multi-metal bits. They kind of look like masonry bits where they have like a hammer head at the end, but they're actually metal bits. I'll have a link and everything of what I used. These are pretty much the only thing that's gonna help you get through these. Otherwise, you're just gonna be chewing up bits. So that's basically what's gonna help you get through the larger holes. Let's start getting the adjustable spring plate mounted. The first thing you wanna do is slip it around the axle first, and then we'll get it over the torsion bar. So let's get this mounted. So slip it around the axle. You kind of got to find a sweet spot where it wants to slide on, and watching all your cables and everything like that. Once it's on, slip it over your slip it over torsion bar, and then basically find out what height you want. That's the cool thing about this adjustable spring plate. Once you have your holes drilled, you can adjust what height you want. I'm going to use the bottom holes. I'm going to use the second to the last set. Slide those in. And that should hold everything in place right now. Then go in with your washer, split lock washer, and nut from the back, and lock everything in place. All right. Once we have these 4 bolts done, let's get the bracket on to hold the spring plate in place. They give you a spacer to make up the difference of the adjustable spring plate. So put that in place over here, just hang it. Then we basically reuse all the factory pieces. I like to lube this as it slides on, just to prevent any squeaks. Some people say do, some people say don't. A lot of people say don't. I'm a suspension guy, so I do like to lube it. I use ball joint grease. Just go light on it. It doesn't really need anything, but just to avoid any squeaks or anything like that, I do add it. So I'm just going to lube the inside of it where it rides along the spindle piece of the torsion bar, and then the face where it rides along the face of the spring plate, just to prevent any squeaks or rubbing. And just a light coat. You don't need anything really. I'm also going to lube the end of this torsion bar to prevent rust and corrosion. Slide this on. And then whatever leftover grease I'm just going to put inside here, which is pretty much nothing. And I'll slide this over. And these are the factory bolts that would have gone in here. Since we're adding an extra plate, I'm gonna make up the difference by the thickness of the plate and going longer bolt. So basically we're not running a chance of pulling out any threads and only grabbing maybe a little bit of threads, and when we torque it down or when we tighten it up, we pull out threads. So I'm running a longer bolt, and just to dress it up, since these spring plates look nice and all this looks nice, I'm going with a button head bolt. I'm gonna add a little lube to these threads because I know most of the threads inside this car are probably crusty, so this will help these things thread in easily and not bind. Start them off by hand so you don't cross thread them. Alright, so once the cover's all bolted on, these are all bolted on, now we can actually bolt the axle in place. So we use the factory 3 bolts, the 2 with just lock nuts, well actually the one with there's one with the washer. So the one with the washer attaches this bracket, and the 2 with the lock nuts go on the other 2 holes. So there's just 3 holes. So let's start putting those in, and they actually go in one direction. So basically from the bolt on this end and the nut on the inside end of the car. All right, so these 3 bolts are snug. It allows play to shift the axle front and back to kind of center it. I'm going to do the other side and then center both, and then basically we'll come back and torque everything and put the wheel on. So I'll pause it right here, do the other side, and then we'll put the wheel on. All right, so just a quick close-up. Everything's now on, bolted up. Larger bolts, I did 80 foot-pounds of torque. Again, these Fresh Kustoms drop plates are really clean once they're on, and the adjustability makes it easy in case you want to go up or down on them. With the disc brake kit on the notch, everything looks really clean and nice. Go around the other side. Again, everything here just clean. I haven't tossed on the shocks yet. I want to sit it on the ground and take a couple measurements. I'm going to be running a shorter shock. I have them here, but I just want to make sure that the shocks won't be limiting how low the car will go before we toss those on. So let's toss on the wheels and go from there. All right, now that I got everything torqued down, I torqued the larger bolts down to 80 foot-pounds. Basically touched up any paint that I needed to touch up. I'm ready to put the wheels on, my favorite time. Basically see the finished look of this. I want to clean off the brakes because basically we've been in here, probably touched them with my greasy hands. So I'm going to go over it with some brake cleaner and then bolt up the wheels. I'm going to use one clean rag to wipe them down, and then we'll bolt up the wheels. So these have 5x130 and 5x112 on them. So it's the bus pattern and the Porsche pattern. So with the rear axles being tucked up, getting it on the rear fender is a little harder now. And that's why I wanted to use these, basically help me hold it in there. So just a little bit on each thread will help. All right, one on, I'll get the other side on, and we'll drop the rear. Again, on these, I like to put them on hand tight. Again, they're basically studs, not bolts. They're bolts, just slap them on. That basically helps center it. Also too, these aren't hub centric, so there's nothing really on there to center the wheel. So take your time, don't cross thread anything. I use these basically to help hold the wheel, because again, the wheel's, it's not hub centric, there's nothing there to hold the wheel. So just take your time and do them by hand. All right, that side's done. Let's put it on the ground and see what it looks like. Let me put a block underneath it, make sure I can get jack out. One more block. That's a nice tuck. Let's get it off the blocks. That's a sick tuck right there. I wasn't planning on going that low. I didn't think it was going to go that low. Again, I could adjust it up one more. Let's toss the front 17s on. And see how it looks. I don't want it to look slanted in the rear at all. I don't know if I want to lower the front right now, but let's see. If I need to, I can bump up the rear just a little bit. But yeah, that just looks sick the way that sits. Let her warm up. She's been sitting for a week or two. But yeah, let me jack up the front, toss on the front wheels, and go from there. So this is another comparison. A lot of people always say like, oh, I don't got room to fit 17s. This is a 15 or 16 actually. No, 15. So side-by-side comparison, the 17 against the 15, they're pretty much almost identical. You're maybe ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch overall diameter difference. And that's because I put a super tiny tire on this, is a low profile tire. But like a 15 with a stock 165R, it'd be actually taller than this. So like over the years, since I do wheels and tires, a lot of guys who have like stock bugs and this and that, they're like, I'm like, hey, you want to run 17s? They're like, oh, I can't fit something that big. I'm like, pretty much it's same size or smaller. All right, let's do the other side and drop it down, see what it looks like. All right, this one's done, let's drop it. Looks nice, let's take it out for a spin. See what it looks like. All right, so I'm gonna wrap this video up right here. Honestly, the rear looks super sick. The front, I'm still not sure if I'm gonna drop it a little bit more. I have no rub at all. I mean, you see me, I pushed it hard back and forth. Car ride's good. This car freaking handles nice. It's real peppy, sounds nice. I don't know if I really don't know if any of that comes through. I have my mic on. Probably sounds like crap coming through my mic inside the cabin, but this car sounds really, really good. And it's really responsive. It's got a nice case. It's got a nice built case, built trans and everything like that. Now we did the disc brakes, give it a nice stance with the Porsche alloys and everything like that. This is a really, really nice notchback. Like I said, I gave it a little pace up and down the street. It handles really, really good. It's really peppy. I had no rubbing between tires, this and that suspension, no suspension noises. no rubbing. I can do turn to turn, U-turns back and forth. So again too, these are King Crabs, so the fronts are 17, I didn't give you the specs. The rears are 17 by 7s, the fronts are 17 by 4. So basically they take a 17 by 7 and they cut it pretty much almost in half. Weld it back together. So you basically have a nice staggered look. Like I said, I have no rubbing or anything. If I were to drop it in the front, I still don't think I would have any rubbing. I don't like the squat look, so I probably will end up dropping the front. So let's see if it's dropped before the next episode. Leading that next episode, I want to do, needs carpet inside. I need to put the front seats and back seat in. That's why I have them out, so I could do the carpet. And then I want to do a sound system in it. I'm debating if I'm going to take off some of the rest of this blue on this car or just leave it patina as is. I've showed pictures before of my 59 Bug. I'm pretty sure the owner of this was trying to do the same thing to this. But if I do that, if you're going for that look, normally you do it all the way or nothing at all. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe down below. Really helps us out a lot. Thank you for staying tuned to the end. I definitely think this was worth staying tuned to the end, because the after on this is just night and day. A lot of people like notchbacks, but to me they could be kind of boring or plain. I think all bugs are pretty cool, but notchbacks to me could kind of be boring or plain in their stock form. This totally brings it to the modern day and steps it up and takes it to the next level. It really needed the 17-inch alloys and that stance. If we could probably bring the front down a little bit more, it just take it to the next level. I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.